Okay, let's get into audience questions for the week. There's a lot. You can tell we're getting close to this November election, and we are. We're only about 4 months away now because a lot of the questions coming in from you guys are about the November election. The first question is about polling, and it's about specifically comparing polling right now to polling in 2016. The question is, David, how does Biden's lead against Trump today differ from Hillary's lead against Trump in 2016? Or is this going to be a repeat of 2016 all over again, where Trump wins by a small margin in a few states? Excellent question. The first answer is we really don't know until people vote, which means every single one of you should be imagining my vote could determine whether Trump wins my state or whether Biden wins my state, and you should go vote on that basis. That's number one. Now, let's look at the actual polls and look at differences between Hillary's lead in 2016 and Trump's lead in 2020 and Biden's lead in 2020. Hillary's popular vote lead in 2016 at the time of the election was smaller than Biden's is today. We've talked before about how it can happen that you lose the popular vote by a lot and win electorally. That can happen. You can draw these maps where I think I saw one over the weekend where you could have 22% of the popular vote and still win the electoral college. Just because you can make that scenario on a map doesn't mean it's likely. And so one of the big differences between 2016 and 2020 is that right now, Biden's popular vote lead is bigger than Hillary's was on election day. That can change. The second important difference between 2016 and 2020 is that when you look at some of the states that are likely to be the key states, the margin for Biden right now is far bigger. Hillary in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Michigan, for example, in 2016. You look at Biden's Michigan numbers right now, they're insane. So does that tell us they couldn't change between now and November? Of course they could change. What it tells us is the polls would have to change far more dramatically than we've typically seen them change in the last 4 months. Or the polls would need to be way more wrong this year than they've been in years past. That's good for Joe Biden. The other sort of number to point to is that Joe Biden is over 50% and well over 50% nationally in a lot of polls, whereas at this point in 2016, Hillary Clinton was hitting 50 in some polls, and when she did, it was usually like 50, maybe 51. Joe Biden has regularly been hitting 50% in polls, and the reason that that's extra important right now is two reasons. One, if Biden's already at 50 in an important state, for example, he doesn't need to worry about the undecideds and the third parties. I mean, yes, he still wants to try to get them, but the point is he, as long as he retains the people he currently has, can win those states, even if against an incumbent, as you get closer and closer to election day, more of the undecideds might break for the incumbent, in this case, Donald Trump. So the 50% threshold is also important. And then that's the last thing, this incumbency factor. 2016 was two challengers against each other with an outgoing president. Now, you could make the case with an outgoing Democratic president, Barack Obama, that is a help for the Democratic candidate, Hillary Clinton. Okay, that's not a factor right now. This is challenger versus incumbent. Now, in many ways, the power of incumbency does suggest the undecideds as we get closer to November, maybe some third party people, maybe some people who like Trump but aren't necessarily thinking of voting might decide to vote. Usually incumbency helps you as you get closer to election day. The concerning number, if you're Trump, is that as an incumbent in some polls, he's in the mid to high 30s. That's very, very bad. And that as an incumbent is a greater red flag than if this was challenger against challenger. You look at Trump's high disapproval and you sort of get an entire picture. So in hearing me talk about all of this, what should you take away from it? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You should be imagining I could turn my state from Trump to Biden. If I don't vote, that could be the vote that gives my state to Trump. If I do vote, my vote could be the vote that gives it to Biden. Now, rarely is it actually a one vote difference, but the point is, a lot of us have these thoughts. If all of us who have these thoughts decided to stay home, Trump wins. And that's the most important takeaway that I can imagine. Hopefully, we will all make the right decisions in November. And hopefully, November 4th will be, it doesn't have to be the big progressive victory that we would all like. It would still be a major, major improvement in the United States. And I hope to be there with you when it happens.